So we have a fun-packed 45 minutes to be able to view with you today. As I said before, this is Conversations About Code. So we're going to be talking about how to add in that student discussion to technology classrooms using CodeHS. And why do we want to have discussions around code? Why do we want students to be talking about it instead of just doing it? So if you are interested in following along with the slides, or if you want the links that are in the slides, it's sometimes easier. You can go to the link that TJ dropped into the chat, and you can click on that. You'll have access to all the links there, but TJ is going to be dropping links along the way as well. I am going to ask for this session, if you do have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We don't have to worry about the Q&A. Go ahead and put them in the chat. TJ is going to be monitoring that to answer any questions as I go, and then I can also stop if needed as well during our session and answer any questions as we go. So, Conversations About Code. I am LeeAnn Grant, and I'm a PD specialist here at CodeHS. And with me, supporting me today, is TJ. He is also a PD specialist. And we're very, very happy to be presenting anything computer science all the time, but specifically about conversations about code and why it's important. Okay, is everybody there? Okay, for some reason my screen said I disconnected, but I am connected, correct? Anybody in the chat? You can hear me and see me, correct? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for answering, Nick. Okay. So if you are interested along the way and you do not have a current CodeHS account, you can always go to our website. It's codehs.com/sign up, and you can sign up for a free account. We have free teacher accounts, and that gives you access to all of our curriculum for free as well, our 6 through 12 curriculum. When you do sign up, we do ask that you use a teacher email, not a Gmail or anything like that, but we do go in and manually verify all teachers who sign up to make sure that you're a teacher and not a student. So you can go ahead and you can sign up for that if you would like. So what is CodeHS? Why are we here presenting to you today? So CodeHS is a comprehensive platform for teaching computer science. We have a full K through 12 web-based computer science curriculum, and we have online and offline professional development, and we have a full software platform with teacher tools and resources. So basically, we have everything that you need to bring a successful CS program to your school or district. And what I do as a PD specialist is I go into schools and I present at conferences, and I let teachers know, and I try to inform teachers about everything about CSS, whether that is we're teaching you programming, we're teaching you strategies and tips and things, or we're teaching you how to use our platform. So that's what I do on a daily basis, and that's why I loved doing conferences. So our goal for today and our goal in our classrooms are for students to be able to talk about code and their coding process in natural language. So I'm not talking about pseudocode. I'm not talking about just being able to write out pseudocode. We're talking about, let's have a discussion about code, whether we're saying the whys or we're being able to explain how something happens. But collaboration is just one part of that if you think about this. Coding can be a very challenging skill for students to learn. And students may struggle with concepts of syntax, especially if they're new to coding. We are starting to introduce coding at a lot younger levels now. And so that difficulty level may kind of sway depending on what level they're at and what experience that they've had. We also have to think about like assessing coding projects and understanding coding projects. When we assess something, it might be as teachers, we understand why or how, but as students are learning the language, think about if you're a CS teacher and you first started learning a programming language. You have to be able to know the whys, the hows behind this and be able to talk about it, just as you now have to be able to explain it to a student. Okay, so there's a lot of challenges that come along with coding itself. but we really want them to be able to process that in their head and be able to discuss it. So why is this important? So being able to discuss code gives an improved understanding. The students are going to have the ability to explain code in words. It forces the student then to understand their own code at a deeper level. And it also helps them to identify any weaknesses or areas for improvement in their code. Another one is better communication skills. So we're able to force our students to be able to communicate effectively using their code and something that they're doing. And that's a really important skill for computer science students because it allows them to collaborate more effectively with other students and then share ideas out. Our next one is better documentation. So why is this important? Being able to explain code in words will help students then to better create documentation for their projects. So it makes it easier for others to understand the code, use it in the future. It might be being a better understanding to be able to add comments in code as well. We also improve our problem solving skills in the process. So when students are able to explain their code in words, they're able to identify, they're able to solve problems, and they also can easily identify any areas of their code that can be optimized or made more efficient in the future. And finally, career readiness. So many computer science careers will require the ability to effectively communicate. And they're going to have to be able to explain technical information to very non-technical stakeholders. And so being able to explain code in words will help to prepare the students for any type of career that they may go into that is coding or programming related. We also can focus on academic vocabulary. We're not going to do this too much, but if you do focus on academic vocabulary and teach them exactly what an algorithm is, teach them exactly what these different parts of vocabulary are, it will help them to not only improve their vocabulary acquisition, but then also create an inclusive space for multilingual learners as well, if you do have those in your classroom. So let's look at some best practices. So some best practices with talking about code is to start with a question. So begin each class with a thought-provoking question that relates to the topic or the discussion. So it gives the students thinking and encourage them to share their ideas from the very beginning. And you can create it as like a bell ringer almost. Group work is another one. So assign projects that require students to work together to solve a problem or complete a task. It also is going to encourage active listening and remind students to listen to each other's ideas in the group work, or even if they're talking about that question at the very beginning, and be able to really engage in a constructive dialogue at that point. Use technology. So you're going to use technology, obviously, to for online discussion boards, or you can use video conferencing if you're not in an in-person setting to facilitate group discussions. Create a safe space. So encourage an open and respectful atmosphere where the students feel comfortable sharing their ideas, where there's no wrong answers. And with that, we create a mistake-friendly classroom. Students are open to make mistakes, and they realize that mistakes are not a bad thing. Mistakes are how we learn from things. So encouraging students to understand that part. We're also fostering relationships during this part. So if we're doing an icebreaker activity or a small group discussion, we're actually creating opportunities for students to get to know each other in the process. And lead by example. So you really need to model good discussion habits yourself. Use open-ended questions, make eye contact, encourage all students to participate in our conversations. All right, so there are some key strategies for starting conversation about code. It could be collaborative learning, project-based learning, and gamification. So a lot of times we do this in coding or in programming already. Okay, so we're going to talk about some activities that add discussion to your course now that are including some of those key tips and strategies. So the first one is called code review. So code review is a software development process where code is written by one or more developers, so one or more students, and is reviewed by someone else in order to identify and fix errors. It helps to improve the quality of code, and it helps to share knowledge and best practices. So when we're doing this, you're essentially having one student create something and another student is giving peer feedback on the code. So they're starting those conversations. So before the code review session, students are given time to write and test their code, and they should prepare maybe a brief explanation of what their code does and any challenges that they encountered while writing it. Then students pair up, and the students are paired up either randomly or based on however you want to do that, maybe area of interest. And the goal is for each student to review the code of their partner and then complete a code review. So the first student explains their code to their partner and demonstrates it, how it works. And the second student reviews the code and provides feedback on things like maybe code structure or readability or efficiency or any kind of best practices that you create in your classroom. And then they also suggest improvements or alternatives. And then the conversation comes. So after the code review, the two students discuss any feedback and suggestions that were made. So, and then there's a reflection period after that. So after the code review session, the teacher should provide time for each student to reflect on what they learned during the session and how they can apply it. So this could be something that you do every once in a while. Maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's once per project. Maybe they have to do a code review right before they complete a project. But it's really important to emphasize that code review should be constructive and a collaborative process. And feedback, it should be given in a positive and supportive manner. And the way that we can do this is we have a CodeHS peer code review guide. So at CodeHS, we have something written out already that you can have your students take this and complete this as part of the peer review. So it has the date, the reviewer's name, the code author's name, the exercise of the project, and then it has a checklist like code functionality, readability, and maintainability. And it has some questions and things that they can look for in the code to guide students. You can use this. It is a template in Google. So you can take this peer review, you can add to it, you can change it, you can make it your own as well. But it is a guide to help the students go through that peer review process. Right? So that's our first activity. We have a second activity. So our second activity is pair programming, which most of you have probably already heard of. So one way to pair program is to set a clear roles for each programmer. Okay, so we might have the driver and we might have the navigator. So the driver's role is to control the mouse and the keyboard and type out the code. And they really are concentrating on solving the current task while keeping the navigator's plan of action in mind. So then the navigator's role is to read the problem and narrate the plan of action. So the navigator is really checking for typos and other errors such as that the driver produces in the code. And then if a problem should arise or anything, the navigator is the one that's going to catch that as the driver is going. Mike, I saw your question, and TJ will be able to answer that to you in the chat. Thank you for your question. So these roles can be reversed many times as you're going. So this is the driver, and the driver is actually typing. And then you have the navigator who is saying, hey, you know what, go back and change this, or maybe we can do it this way to make things more efficient. Okay, so, and then you can switch back and forth. So this is an activity map that we have. The link is in the slides here. Actually, I don't think the link is in the slides. I'll have TJ be able to do that one as well. But this is an activity map where you can do pair programming, or you can do things in different ways. So are you going to do it as a whole class? So you would pair, create a survey, do partner references, maybe create a poster or a video. You're going to role play. There's a lot of different things. And before you actually get into it, you're teaching the students how to pair program at that point. Okay. All right. So I'm going to actually drop that link in. It is a PDF. I will drop that in the chat right there. That's a PDF of this if you're interested in that. All right. We also have a pair programming guide on Google Classroom. I don't know why I said that. On CodeHS itself. And what this does is it talks about the discussion at the beginning, how to make a plan, and it goes through each step for the students as well. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat here if you want to view that. All right. So next activity, debate. Okay. We often don't think of debating and programming going together. Okay. But what if we were to give students a specific code, and it could be in any language, anything that you're working on. What if we were to give them this and give them another one and have them pair up, or have them decide alone which one they think is better, maybe which one they think is more efficient, and then have them debate why each one is better than the other or more efficient within the classroom. It creates that conversation, and you're listening to others' ideas at the same time. So these two sets of code that are on the screen produce the same result. Which one of the solutions is better? Well, if they both present the same result, you're going to have people on both sides of the fence saying, you know what, this one is better because it does this, and this one is better because it does this. So you're automatically having those conversations. So what you can do is, and how I would actually go about doing this is, as a teacher, I love to use AI. So if maybe I have a solution to a problem, and what I'm going to do is go to an AI, go to a chat bot and say, take this solution and create a different version of the solution that gives me the same results. You're automatically, you could do it yourself by hand if you know how to do that too. That's fine. But using and utilizing AI in this could be something that you present to them, or utilizing AI and allowing them to see if they can create a new solution using AI as well, and then have a debate after that. Then they're learning how to use AI effectively at the same time. All right, Parsons problems. This is one of my favorite things. So a Parsons problem is a task where you give your student all of the necessary lines of code for an exercise, but they're out of order. And then they have to put them in order. How does this spark discussion? They are going to have to figure out which way it goes. Okay. So yes, Parsons problems are soon coming to our platform. We will have them internally. The link that that TJ gave you is to an outside program. We use an outside program right now, but our engineers have been very hard working on making them actually an activity that we have and we can create within our own platform. And so an example of a Parsons problem, I'm actually going to go to this to look at an example with you. So if you were to click on this codehs.com and the link that he has, this is what comes up. And oh, it did not. I'm going to share this tab instead. Okay, there we go. So what this is that this gives all of the parts of the code, and we need to put it in order. Okay, so obviously I can see with this one, first needs to go first, and then maybe then, and then maybe next. And then I found my classroom. Okay, now is this right? No, it's not. So I'm going to get feedback and it says they're in the wrong order. So I need to switch these and now I get feedback and now they're in the right order. So what this is doing is you can do this as a group together, or you can do this in small groups. You could give different parsing problems to different small groups of students and have them figure out which order it needs to go into. Obviously, it's not going to say first, then next, and finally. You're going to give them actually parts of code that they're going to have to debug and figure out on their own. Okay. All right, let's go back to here. So that's parsing problems. So how many of you remember playing telephone when you were little in elementary school classes, right? So the game of telephone is actually can be really fun way to be used and is an engaging activity to teach students about the importance of code documentation and the communication in software development. So this one is really, really cool. So I'm going to show you this slide. So we are going to start off with this piece of code here. I'm going to give a piece of code to one student. The student then needs to give directions to the next student on what that function or what that piece of code actually did. So they're first interpreting it, they're breaking it down, and they're figuring out what the result is of it. So if I was to take this and the first person says, write a function called a triple that multiplies a number by 3 and prints it out. That's what they interpreted this code to do. So then when they give this directions to the next person writes out the code. Okay. So then after that, the next person is doing the same thing as before, interpreting it, putting it in words, and then somebody else is putting it in code again. So you can see how this changed 3 different times. How do we analyze this? We take then the 3 pieces of code and figure out, okay, how could we have analyzed this differently? How could we have described this problem differently and to be able to get the same result each single time? So you're having the students have that discussion just internally by doing the by doing it automatically, right, within the activity. All right, so what about some activities that don't have to be collaborative? So there are some things that we can get students learning and talking about coding in ways that you're not actually conversing with another student. One of those could be a coding journal. So a coding or a programming journal is a space for students to be able to write their thoughts and ideas and processes about coding. So they could be celebrating successes and new learning. They could list problems, attempted solutions, and learn lessons learned. They could record some creative ideas that they've been going through in the class, or they can take notes that are still unanswered, of questions that are unanswered. So they have a question and they really need to keep working towards that answer, but they're not there yet. And so that might go into a coding journal. So this is kind of what it might look like. So maybe what I did today. Today we learned about JavaScript. We wrote a program that asks the users for the user's name and then says hello. So successes. I made my first JavaScript program work. I used prompt to ask the user's name and alert to show the greetings, and then some problems and solutions I ran to. So the problem is my code didn't run at first because I forgot to close the parentheses in the prompt. And then the solution was I fixed it by checking the example and adding the parentheses and always check my syntax. So what they did is they wrote what they learned, the successes, the problems, how they solved it. Maybe this could be something you do on a weekly basis. Maybe you could do this as a wrap up the last 5-10 minutes of class every day, whatever you want to do to encourage students to do this and to get this on a regular basis. Then they're going to have a huge record of what they've done throughout the class, what they learned, and the process that they went about doing it as well. Some other ideas though is to make the program, sorry, this is just continuing. I forgot. This is just continuing on so they had ideas then. Moving forward, make the program ask for the user's favorite color, display a message like hello with their name. Your favorite color is this. And so try creating a simple game. So this is where they want to move in the future, and then recording those questions that I talked about as well. So how do I store and use more info like the user's name and age? They haven't learned that yet, but they're already wondering about it. Okay. So we do have a notebook template that you can use for your students. So this is a coding notebook or a coding journal template that the students can, it is Google, so they can just keep making copies of the pages or whatever, however you want to use this to be able to move forward, and how often you want to use this. But it is available for you on our website. So a couple other ideas for learning about code or talking about code without discussing it, or about collaboration, is we have a project catalog. So another one is allowing a student to pick a project. So this is our project catalog. We have students say they're looking for something independent to be able to work on. You want them to choose. Maybe you're going to click maybe an easy thing, and I want to do some holiday things. So let's say changing leaves. This is an easy one for high school. It is auto-graded. Go in here, learn about the code, have them do it themselves. Investigating it, you're not teaching it throughout, but they can go into here. They can go into you assign it to them, and then they go in and they actually do this is what they would create essentially. Okay. But you can also do this by figuring out you can go by a specific language. There's lots of ways to filter within there. So our project-based learning catalog is one of them. Another option that we have is our career center. So in our career center, we click into this and share this tab. So this is our career center, and this is, I think, something that more teachers, if they knew about it, would use within the classroom, and in starting those conversations about code. Because we have students in our classroom, sometimes they're there because they want to, and then sometimes they're there because they have to be in a coding class. And so this will say, hey, what are you interested in doing after school? All right. So the student's really interested in ag. Well, let's talk about ways that computer science are used within agriculture careers. So if I was to click on agriculture here, it has information about cultivating food and crops through computer science technology. It has some articles about technology and the future of agriculture, how computer science helps farmers develop sustainable farming methods. The future of agriculture is computerized. It goes on to then have a lesson about career exploration, and they get to do it in their specific area. Okay. And then there's other ones that it suggests at the same time. And as TJ said in the chat, it's really a great way to motivate students. But it's also, if you have a few additional days here and there at the end of a quarter or something like that, to be able to throw something like that in, or from our project catalog too, to be able to throw something in and have them investigate then a little bit further. Okay. All right. Okay. So project showcases is something else that I absolutely love to do in a classroom, that helps students start talking about their coding and their projects. So this is really great for an open-ended project that you might create. It might come from the project catalog. You pick something and have them then present their project in a showcase. A project showcase gives the students the chance to share their projects with their peers. And so essentially what they're doing is they're describing their project and then describing their process. This is what my end result was going to be, or this is what I tried to do. This is how I did it. And then this was my product. And Oh, absolutely. In the Career Center. Thank you so much for that. We really strive to teach our students in that computer science and technology is going to be in everything moving forward. Technology is not going away, right? So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. For the project showcases, though, it automatically gets them talking about it. So you have them do, and you could do it around the room, kind of like each person has their computer set up. You have half of them going and visiting while half of them are presenting, and then you go back and you switch. Or you could do it as a whole class, kind of like having one person get up and present at a time. But however you do the project showcase, students are talking about what they created. The last, or actually I have a couple more. So one of them is a video submission. So if you don't want to do a full class presentation, you can allow them to submit a video that has the students talking about their code in natural language, kind of like they were doing a project showcase. This is really great though for students who are maybe anxious about doing it in front of their peers. And you could use free software, you could use Loom, something like that to be able to move into and then you could have maybe the videos out on a platform for students to be able to view at that point. It says session reconnected again. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up. Yes. Good. Thank you so much. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, so the how-to library is another one. You have students contribute to a class tutorial library. Create your own. So you can have the students explain concepts that they might have learned, maybe some hints on some projects that they've created, show extension ideas to their classmates or future students. So they're creating this. It could be just in this class, but like it said, maybe future students, these are things that I learned during this class that you will find helpful. I love the idea of creating a how-to library, a repository, if you will, of all the different things and the concepts. It could come from the coding journal, maybe the successes that they celebrated, or the solutions and the problems that they ran into, putting them into a how-to library. This is what I ran into, and this is how I solved it. So other students can go to the library and say, hey, somebody else already ran into this. How do I solve this problem as well? Absolutely love this idea for a programming class. Okay, so the rubber duck method. So typically we use the rubber duck method for debugging. For students that have difficulty talking about their code with other students, the rubber duck can be used as a low stakes conversation partner. So I'm going to click on this. So this is, oh, I have to share this tab. So this is called the, let me zoom in here so you guys can see this, rubber duck debugging. So this is kind of a cool concept. So the rubber duck debugging method is where you beg, borrow, steal, buy, fabricate, or otherwise obtain a rubber duck in some way, okay? You place a rubber duck on a desk and inform it that you're just going to go over some code with it, if that's all right. You explain to the duck that your code is supposed to do, and then go into detail and explain the code line by line. At some point, you tell the duck that what you're going to do next, and then realize that that is not the fact that you're actually going to do, and the duck will sit there serenely happy and in the knowledge that it has helped you along your way. So essentially what this is doing is we've had students and we've had teachers find the small rubber ducks and put them on every single class, on every single person's desk. The student then is talking out their thinking process for their coding with that duck versus somebody else. Again, it helps with the anxiety level, maybe not creating the videos. Robin, oh, I love that you give out ducks. So you have, my seniors have quite the collection after 4 years. So they keep the ducks, which is amazing. I love that idea instead of reusing them as well. So in a pinch, maybe somebody else might be able to substitute for a duck. You could use anything else. You don't have to do a rubber duck, but a rubber duck is actually something that it has become commonplace in a lot of classrooms using this debugging method. So check out this website. It is very, very cool idea to be able to use with your students from a very young age. I have actually heard of some of our elementary teachers using the rubber duck starting early on, so they understand that they're giving the duck directions step by step by step of what they're doing as they're coding. So this one is very, very fun. All right. So having said that, yes, I use grades 3 through 5 and they love the ducks. I love it. The store has all the, oh, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing a store that has all the different kinds of ducks. I own a Jeep, and Jeeps are big on ducks too and stuff. So that's one of the things that I always look for. So that's another great website. Thank you so much. Okay. So that is our activities and conversations about code. If you have any other ideas about increasing conversation through code or about code, I would love for you to share it out in the chat. We learn from each other as well. And I don't know all of the strategies. Obviously, you guys have already heard about the rubber duck things, and so many people are using it, which is amazing. But we learn from each other. So what else can you teach me? Maybe I can add it to my presentation for the next time I do the presentation. If you're using anything else, I would love to take a couple minutes. Go ahead and put that into the chat, ways that you have increased conversation about coding into your classroom. I, at the same time, will ask if there's any questions about anything that we did today. Along the way, any comments, anything that you would like to share. So we have still a couple minutes left in the session, and we'll take this time sharing out questions, whatever it is. If you want to learn more about CodeHS in the meantime, you can click the QR code or the link that TJ just dropped into the chat as well. And I know it keeps, I think I talk with my hands a lot, so I keep seeing like things pop up on the screen, and I'm wondering if it's because I'm talking with my hands. I don't know if you see the confetti going all the time. You can learn more about CodeHS by clicking on this link. Michelle said, any free databases for computer science multiple choice questions? Ooh, does anybody have a repository of multiple choice questions that they would like to share out for computer science? Dan says, I always start with Legos and give the kids a bag to build and then write out instructions for the kids to give to another group. It's fun to see how they create the instructions. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. It's kind of like when you have somebody turn around and you give them directions to draw something step by step. It's the same thing, but I love the Lego idea. What grade level do you do this with, Dan? Robin, you do the same thing. What grade level? 7th grade. Oh, middle school. Middle school is my baby. I love middle school students. And so this is absolutely great. Robin, love that you're doing it with high school students. Oh, APCSP specifically. Love that course. Love teaching that course. Anybody else have anything to share out? If you would, at some point before the end of the session, we have a workshop survey that we would love for you to tell me how I did as a presenter as well. And TJ will drop that in the chat here in just a second. TJ, will you check really quick and make sure that the session is on there? I wanted to make sure. I don't remember if I did it yesterday. So Michelle, you do the same thing at the very start of APCSP with the Legos, Michelle? Oh, not Michelle, Michael. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for attending today. I'm glad that you guys use a lot of these strategies already, and hopefully you were able to learn something else that you can bring back into your classroom about at any grade level. Honestly, this stuff can be used from K through 12 and beyond. I remember taking coding classes in college that we talked more about code, I think, in my college classes than we ever did in high school. And so implementing those are just absolutely amazing as well. Thank you so much. Yes, the slides are codehs.com/convo code. TJ just put it in there. You will have access to the slides.